We do this, and then that happens. All right. Saludos and salutations, Broncos Country, and welcome to another exciting episode of Broncos Talk. Today, we are going to go over the recap of what happened against the Colts, the good, the bad. We're also going to talk to Libre, who was actually at the game, and he's going to tell us all the stuff that we didn't get to see from our seats at home. Also, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to talk about Bo Nix. We're going to talk about the offense, the defense, the great game that they had, by the way, and we're going to talk about looking forward to tomorrow's matchup against the Chargers. So we have all that and so much more coming up next here on Broncos Talk.
Broncos talk, let's rock, feel the energy rise. From the microphone to the fans reaching the skies. Every episode is thrill and surprise. For the love of the game, we harmonize.
And welcome back in, everybody. My name is Adán Diaz, and I'm the owner, proprietor, and host of your show today here on Broncos Talk. And joining me to my right is Bronco Libre. Bronco Libre, how you doing tonight, my friend?
Doing well. How about you?
You know what? Before we get started with all the announcements and all the stuff that we always do, I just want to give a big shout out to Johnny Baki for doing the banner, the thumbnail for today's show. If you guys didn't know, like sometimes I get stuck, and sometimes I mean like most of the time thinking about titles, and Johnny always comes through. So shout out to Johnny Baki, the owner, co-owner of the Orange and Blue Network, for helping us out with today's banner or thumbnail, I should say, with the title. And ladies and gentlemen, to be honest with you, it's probably going to be something that's going to be a whole lot more frequent. Unfortunately, we are without Ty, the fantasy guy. He's still out. We love you. We miss you, brother. Hopefully we get to have you back on the show for the upcoming new year. But like you guys know, if this is your first time watching us, we have a couple of things we got to get out of the way before we begin talking Broncos. So for those of you that don't know, this show is on the Orange and Blue Network. So please make sure you subscribe, share, comment, and like this show. Orange and Blue Network has a lot of great shows out for you guys. If this is not your thing, totally fine. Orange and Blue's got you covered. We have something for everybody. Also, this is a simulcast, which means that this show is also streaming on the Mile High Round Table Network, MHRT. So please make sure you subscribe, share, comment, and like on their networking shows as well, because they have a lot of great programming over there. Shout out to my boy Richie Rich over at the Wild Wild Podcast and all those guys over there doing a fantastic job. And you know, there's not much I can say that's not like, it's just great. They do a great job. We all do a great job. We're awesome. But the fact that we're able to do one show on two different networks at the same time is just beautiful. Also, today's show is brought to you by Dubby. Ladies and gentlemen, Dubby is here to help you with your energy. Have you guys ever woken up tired and you have to rely on coffee or energy drinks or all that stuff? That stuff's not good for you. And that's why Dubby is here. They have a lot of great flavors for you guys. Also, they formulated to give you focus and energy with no jitters or crash. Their formula contains vitamins, amino acids, and nootropics, including the patented Neurofactor formula. They have no calories, no sugar, no maltodextrin, no fillers, and no artificial colors. So please make sure you go out and get yourself some Dubby. It's great for you. Also, our friends over at the Nothing Rhymes with Orange and Blue Network, the flagship show, would like to give you guys 10% off when you use the code NRWOB10 at checkout. So make sure you use that code. Again, it's NRWOB10 for your 10% off at checkout for whatever your favorite Dubby flavor is. So shout out to Dubby for being sponsor for today's show, and also for shout out to Johnny Baki and everybody at the NRWOB show for hooking you guys up with 10% off. So also, for all those of you guys listening to us on audio, please make sure you give us a like, hit that notification button so you get live notices whenever a show goes up. If you'd like to follow us on our socials, are right there at the bottom. Mine is at a 6'10" Mexican on Twitter. Bronco Libre is at Bronco Libre. Give us a follow. We're always happy and down to talk about any and all things sports. For any business inquiries, you can email at broncostalk2020@gmail.com. I think I messed that up in that order, but I think I got everything.
You got it all.
Before we begin talking about Broncos, Libre, one of the things that I used to do when I started the show is I always started the show out griping about something or griping or complaining or just asking a simple question. So, and this is totally not Broncos related, but it's just something I noticed. Have you ever noticed that whether it's in English or Spanish, when people are singing happy birthday, whether it's to you or somebody else, and it gets to the part where you're supposed to name that person, have you ever noticed that not everybody says the same thing? Like some people say your name, some people say your nickname, and it just sounds so weird.
Yeah.
Like, have you ever noticed that? Like, what do you think about it? Am I the only one that's weird?
No, I think it's funny. Just whenever it gets to that point, you always don't know who it is because it could be your grandma. Somebody says grandma or mom or something like that. So, no, it's very funny. But I think it's also like it's awkward, like when you're just singing it, and it's just real funny itself.
I'm telling you, I heard the other day we were singing happy birthday to somebody, and it just like I heard somebody's nickname, and I was like, wait, like who calls him that? So it's just weird that not everybody says the exact same thing. I don't know if that's just habit or that's just because everybody thinks that's what. I don't know. It's just weird. But that's where my mind was today while I was out doing Uber. But ladies and gentlemen, we are here to talk about Denver Broncos football. With that being said, before we get to the comments, we already see we have a lot of people in the chat today. Libre, you were at the game this past Sunday against the Colts. The Broncos defense once again pulls us out of a very, very tough spot that the Broncos almost got themselves in. So I want to start with you. Tell us what it is that you saw. What was the animosity? What was the feeling going on at Mile High during the first half, and then everything, the momentum change heading towards the second?
So the atmosphere in the stadium at the beginning of the game, we were super excited. Everything was going along, and then the game started, and then it was like, man, did these guys really have a bye week that just destroyed the mojo? That's really what we thought, especially with the people that were around me. We're like, oh my God, like this could not have come at the worst time for us this late in the season, the very last bye week of the season for the teams. And then just stopping our momentum itself. And you could see it right away. The Colts, that very first drive, going all the way down and scoring right away, and we're like, dang, this is all right. Now it's our turn to go through, and then us going out, like not even producing anything. It was pretty disheartening to see that in the first half, and we're like, man, this is not our day, and we need this game. This is a huge game itself.
Yeah. Before I go into my thoughts about that, not being at the game, but watching it from my couch, just want to say hi to all the people we have here in the chat. First of all, let's get to Blitzby Reppin saying, I hope Sertan plays. From what I'm hearing, he should be good to go. Blitzby Reppin, thank you so much for being a supporter. My high salute to you, my friend. Yes, Pax Sertan will play tomorrow. Riley Moss is not. He is out. Unfortunately. Yep. Another game. D-Rock coming in saying, Blitz B and a done. D-Rock, my friend, my high salute to you, brother. Thank you so much for joining us. Polar Knight saying, I love this show. I get so many ideas for how to dress. Ideas, I think you must say, for how to dress when I need to blend in at Daytona 500. To be honest with you, I wear this every Wednesday. So this isn't real. I'm not the one you want to talk to about fashion. So But Libre is the more fashionable one out of the both of us. I'll give him credit for that. Polar Nights, thank you so much, my friend. My high salute to you for joining us here this Wednesday night. Dreamweaver saying LFG boys, huge game tomorrow night. KAD and Mathis will be challenged way more than the Indy game, I think. Bend, but don't break. You have not been more right, my friend. And this is almost kind of like what it was the first time around, because the first time around, the Broncos didn't have PS2. Remember, he went out. So this is almost the exact same situation. Instead of it's Riley Moss out this time and not PS2. So we're going to also get into that a little bit later. Just going to try to fly through some of these comments. I promise we will come back to you, Jay. Paul and I saying, today been my day of the year. Been watching Colts reruns. It included a lot of crying. I am ready for a new year. Shy Vargas saying, one more game until we clinch a playoff berth tomorrow. Shy Vargas, thank you so much. Mile high salute to you, brother. And you are totally right. One more win, and the Broncos are officially in. But to answer to back to the question that we were talking about here, Libre, about the game. On the post game show, I gave Bo Nix a C-, and Jay and Baki literally got on my case about it, that they disagreed, which is totally fine. Most of the people that I've seen on social media since then that talked about Bo Nix actually gave him much worse, which was like a D, and one guy even gave him an F. So if you want to be mad at me about something, you should go talk to those guys. But here's the reason why I gave him a C-. Yes, and I actually had this conversation with one of my Uber passengers today too. Yes, Bo Nix is still a rookie, totally understandable, but you guys have to realize that we only have, with tomorrow's game, 3 more games left where we can actually use that excuse, and the postseason. Because after this year, we cannot go back and say, if Bo Nix makes those mistakes, like, he's still a rookie. No, he's not. He'll be going into his second year, and a lot more is going to be expected out of him. Now, if this was a very tough defense, I would totally understand. But this was the Colts, Libre. This was one of the worst defenses in the league in terms of secondary. And you said it yourself. We talked about it before the pregame, before the show tonight, that some of those, and when you watch it from home, it looks even worse. Like that first interception. Why? He literally, it was triple coverage. The other two were just overthrown.
Exactly.
So before I turn it back over to you, you said it yourself. It looked like the Bo Nix of week 1 and 2. That's what that looked like. And yes, he got 3 touchdowns out of it. Thank God he did, because he started to but it was like he was going back and forth in between, the Bo Nix we know, and then nervous, and then confident, and then nervous. So we need Bo Nix to stay in the confident zone and not buckle, because if he plays like that with a team like the Colts, then going into the playoffs, the playoffs is the best of the best, the best of 14 teams. So we need him to settle down, to not put the ball in that type of danger. And that's why I gave Bo Nix a C-, because yes, he is still a rookie. I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt, but at the same time, sometimes we got to take off our orange and blue colored glasses here, Libre, and call it like the way it is. Because if he plays like that against in the playoffs, and the defense can't bail him out, then who are you going to put the blame on?
No, absolutely. You're going to put the blame on Bo himself, and then the secondary, it's going to be on Sean, just because he's the one that's putting the calls out there for him, putting the plays together. In a way, I think Sean was also scared as well a little bit during the game as well, because of those couple picks and him not getting the reads out there properly. And then if you just, especially inside the stadium, when you're there, you see the whole field, you see everything else. And especially after his first interception, and then him he went back and trying to read in the field. He had Vele a couple of different times wide open. down the field. He was further down, about 15, 20 yards down the field. But you could tell like he wasn't ready to throw the ball because he was afraid. It looked like on the field, like his body language and everything was he was afraid to throw the ball because he didn't want to get picked again.
Mm-hmm.
And I think with that itself, and I think just because it is still his rookie year, he's still learning the league, the system itself, all the defenses right now that's being thrown at him. Eventually, I see him being one of these top tier quarterbacks in the league just from what we've seen so far this year. But for this game itself, because it was the first time seeing the Colts, it was just something new for him, something different, and then something just scared him. But I'm just glad that there's a tale of two halves. That's always you always play two halves of the game. So glad all of that happened in the first half, and then everything just switched on to the second half where he had a little bit more confidence as well.
Yeah, but also the thing we also have to realize, Libre, and I'm not sure if we talked about it on this show or it's been said on the Orange and Blue Network or on MHRT, is basically that's what an offense looks like when you don't have a running game. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
The running game has been the Achilles heel of that offense all season. Javonte Williams has only had one game where he looked like the Williams of old, damn near, and that was against the Saints. And the Saints are a team way worse off than what the Colts currently are. So when you don't have a running game and you're forcing your quarterback to throw a whole, even though those passes were overthrown, but still, when you're able to run the game, you're able to make the defense choose. Either you're going to stack the box or you're going to spread the defense out. They can't do both.
Oh, yeah.
So when you can't make them do that, then you're making them choose, pick their poison. Also, like you said, Bo Nix wasn't reading his reads out completely. He wasn't the offensive line wasn't getting pushed in, Libre. So in some of those picks, he literally just threw the ball, and I'd have to watch it again, maybe in slow motion. But from what I saw, it didn't look like he read all of his reads. He gave himself the time. It kind of looked like I don't know if he was staring down Cortland Sutton and expecting him to, do a backflip catch or something crazy like that. But putting the ball in that type of danger in double or triple coverage in some cases, except for the last one. The last one, I don't blame it on him because it looked like his wide receiver was wide open. He didn't see the safety come and take the ball. But the other two, totally different story. Let's get into some of the comments here before we keep going. Ramiro Loera, I hope I said your last name right. Thank you so much for my high salute to you, my friend. He says, why doesn't Coach P try all the other running backs until we find a spark? Maybe the next Terrell Davis. Well, you know what? It's not so much, the next Terrell Davis, because that's a hell of a reach. But it's just like the Broncos are paying these current running backs a lot. And if I'm not mistaken, McLaughlin isn't playing tomorrow. He's out. So maybe there is a running back that we don't know about that gets the call up and, hey, maybe we have something in this guy. But it's more likely going to be a practice squad type of guy. Because if I'm not mistaken, I think that's how McLaughlin came up, didn't he? I think he was a practice.
Yeah, he was a practice squad, and then they brought him up.
Mm-hmm.
I think they just announced earlier today, late this afternoon, like they did bring someone up, but I'm not positive. I didn't really see it because I was driving home from work and then getting ready for the podcast here tonight. So I didn't get to really read it.
But you're totally right, Ramiro. If the Broncos can find like a waiver pick out there, not Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I don't want Clyde Edwards in Denver.
He just actually signed with somebody. I saw that as well. He signed with a practice squad earlier today. So.
Okay, well, not him.
No, we didn't want him.
Yeah. D-Rock saying, I could be misreading the tea leaves, but I think the accolades were getting to him. I believe he's talking about Bo Nix. I don't think it's the accolades. I think it's just, this is also exactly what Libre and I talked about last week. When your teams that they were hot going into the bye, and then they come off of that bye after taking a week off. So it's like the momentum is gone. Okay. I don't necessarily want to say that the accolades have gotten to him because he hasn't really gotten anything yet. Yes, he's been talked about as being, a candidate for Offensive Rookie of the Year, maybe to that extent, but it was nothing that's like set in stone. That's like, hey, you're going to win it for sure. This game has definitely put him back on the trail of Jaden Daniels, and Jaden Daniels is probably going to have a game where he throws like 3 interceptions and kind of like what Bo Nix have to kind of even them out. And Bo Nix just has to play straight, clean these next 3 games in order to stay relevant in that race. But to be honest with you, right now, it could be anybody. It could be either one of those guys. It could be somebody where we can't think off the top of my head, because Jaden Daniels hasn't exactly been lighting up the field since the beginning of the season. Libre, but it could be just something just because of, accumulate the entire season and then say, hey, he barely beat out Bo Nix, let's say, because Bo Nix started rough and then it was kind of like a workaround. But either way, Bo Nix is going to be fine. We just have to get behind him and continue cheering him on here in Broncos country. Brandon Martinez saying, let's go Broncos. Mahai, salute to you, my friend. Thank you so much for joining us. Hey, your primo, Juan Marquez, saying, what's up, guys? Knicks will be fine. I'm more concerned about the non-existence of the run game. The bye week didn't feel like they improved on anything, in my personal opinion. And you're totally right about that.
100% right.
You're 100% right. For some teams, the bye week does more bad than good. Yeah. And we saw that in the Broncos in that first half. If Jonathan Taylor didn't drop that football, God only knows where the Broncos would have been, because then the Broncos would have to been playing a lot further from behind, And we talked about it last week, where we said, Jonathan Taylor was the one player that worried me, because he hasn't really been like that, the Jonathan Taylor that we've known him to be. And the Broncos, the last running back that went crazy on them was back in the Ravens with Derrick Henry. So that was the kind of game that I was like, I hope Jonathan Taylor didn't have. And in that one run, it looked like the defense was caught sleeping. I don't know what the hell happened. No, like nobody could tackle him. He just completely was gone. And then the man just drops the ball before he walks into the end zone. And that just gave us the momentum swing that we needed. And the defense, once again, led by Nick Bonito, did the rest of the work, and also PS2. But it's just like, it's a tale as old as time, ladies and gentlemen, where the Broncos are just once again, saved by the defense, and it's another W in the books. I'm really glad that the Broncos won, but ugly wins, I like to see them better on the road, because the road games are a lot harder to win. And when ugly wins happen at home, then there's a lot of like red tape around it. It's like, yeah, we won, and then people start to nitpick, so.
No, absolutely. And then just going back to our previous comment right there from Brandon Martinez, that's another cousin of mine. So what up, cousin? Got all my cousins coming up on here. And then also a great friend of mine from Texas. We'll go up to, her name is Alicia Ramos. Saludos from Orange Crush, 915 El Paso, Texas fan club, Denver Bronco for life. She's been a huge supporter of Bronco Libre, the Broncos. Love her to death. Thank you so much for showing us, coming on the podcast with us.
Oh, thank you so much. It's always a pleasure to have people from Broncos country from all over the world, not just here in America. D-Rock saying, low-key, the thought of JW and AE as a tandem seems very intriguing. Just power versus power. Hit them in the mouth over and over and over again. And that's really what it should be. It'll be interesting to see how the Broncos next season address this, because they're not going to be in the top draft order. So I know that I forget the name of that gentleman who's more than likely going to be gone in one of the top 10, probably the running back Gianti. That guy looks like he's going to run. He's going to run some yards. But then again, that also depends on what your offensive line is, who your quarterback is, who the coaching is, all that stuff. So that's also something to take into question. But the important thing about this game, Libre, against the Colts, is just basically the fact that the Broncos were able to take that momentum swing away from Indianapolis. Thank you, Juan. Ashton Gianti. That the Broncos were able to take away the momentum from the Colts and basically keep them away from the end zone, and just making it another miserable day at the office for them. And pretty much the Colts are on life support right now, folks. They need a lot to happen for them to make the playoffs. This was a must win for them, and they didn't get it. So, to be honest with you, Libre, I thought that Joe Flacco was going to see the field at one point because I thought the Colts were going to be desperate, where it was like Flacco go out there and do something, you know. But unfortunately, he didn't go.
No, and what was crazy too, there was just a section right over from where I was sitting at. There were fans. There was probably about 5 to 10 maybe fans that were standing up and saying, "We want Flacco," and then just clapping. "We want Flacco." That's what it was doing, and it was like started from almost from like halftime, closer to halftime and whatnot. That they were just chanting for Flacco, and it was hilarious. We were all laughing there in the stands. It was pretty comical.
Were they wearing Broncos Flacco jerseys by any chance?
They were actually.
I freaking knew it. That was my only worry going into that, Libre, because I felt, especially after the Nick Bonito pick six, I felt that was going to be like, hey, like Richard said, you're done. We need to try to win this game. I'm surprised that the Colts actually didn't, to be honest with you. Jonathan Taylor kind of looked like he took that callback really seriously. He was not the same person for that remainder of the game. It looked like he wasn't, like his cuts weren't the same. He just kept just straight running into the teeth of our defensive line, and it was just as a Broncos fan, it was amazing to see.
No,
because
absolutely.
there were a lot of Colts fans that were talking smack on social media, and I was just sitting there reading it, and I was like, hey man, there's two halves. Like, don't sleep on the Broncos. You know, the boys are going to come back. And you know what? Also, shout out to Nick Bonito and for just being absolutely amazing 2 games in a row, Libre. If that man does not win Defensive Player of the Year, somebody at NFL headquarters does not like us, man, because I mean, that has just been amazing. Either him or PS2, because that interception was just, it was like something you saw out of Madden. It was unfreaking believable.
Oh yeah. So like going back to Bonito's play himself, he said, he threw the ball out to the flat, to the receiver, and then he read Richardson right away. He goes, wait, this doesn't seem right. And he broke on there, and then that's when they threw it back, and he goes, I was already in stride breaking back because I saw the way that he was just hanging out there. He's never done that. I've never seen that. So him just recognizing it, his IQ there on the field to recognize that so quickly and then just break on it and just taking it and taking it for the pick six itself, or fumble recovery they called it. So, but still having that part itself, him recognizing that's just top tier right there, where you can't teach that. You either have it or you don't, and he has it, and he's proven it right now.
Yeah, definitely. I know me and you talked about it before about Jonathan Cooper. I kind of think he's kind of fallen in the shadow of Nick Bonito. But like, I am really excited to see what the edge rush is going to look like next year, because the Broncos can only go from improving that defensive line. I still think that we need a better option next to Zach Allen. For some reason, I'm just kind of like not feeling DJ Jones anymore. And Malcolm Roach has been a breath of fresh air, man. That man has played some really good football. But linebacker, I think, is going to be probably another big key next season. I don't know if it was here or I heard it somewhere that Cody Barton was more than likely not going to come back to the Broncos next year. I think because of I don't know if it's because of his veteran or because he was going to be a little bit too expensive to have. I forget what the reasoning was, but I don't have an issue with Barton. I think he's played really good football. Yes, he's had a couple of mishaps, which probably we could go into the Chargers game. As you remember, he was caught in that broken coverage with the backup running back last time, and he just got beat. He couldn't catch him. So the Chargers game coming up, Libre, it is a very, very important game for both teams because it's going to depend on seeding. So, which is the title of today's show. Us basically asking for Santa, if you believe in Santa, to give us that fifth seed. So, I think that the Broncos right now are in a much better position than they were the first time around because the Chargers are not going to get the Bo Nix that they had the first time where he was still trying to figure himself out and figure out the offense and whatnot. And as we saw this past weekend, Libre, the Chargers got throttled by the Buccaneers at home,
Yeah,
which
that
is
was nuts.
which is something that the Chargers haven't had done to them all season. And the Buccaneers was the team that the Broncos throttled at their own home a couple months ago.
Yeah.
So you got to believe that the Chargers going into this game are really, really shook up. And your cousin Juan coming in here and saying, my question to you both is, do we clinch a playoff berth tomorrow night? If the Broncos can take advantage and keep and catch the Chargers while they're still reeling, yes, the Broncos will clinch a playoff spot. And the only other team that they'll have to worry about, which is probably going to have to be the Bengals, because they play the Bengals again the following week. And the Bengals need to win out, and they also need a little bit of help from the standings, if I'm not mistaken. But if they lose on Sunday, then they're pretty much sunk. They need to win. And Joe Burrow is dealing with his knee injury, nothing severe, but I know his name came up on the questionable sheet today. So, but we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves. But yes, the Broncos winning tomorrow will clinch them not just a playoff spot, but more than likely the fifth spot. Billy, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead, Billy.
No, so with the Broncos going in there tomorrow and winning in LA, we'll definitely clinch them as playoff seed. And I think with that, I think it would be at least the sixth seed itself, the minimum, the sixth seed, because we'll have some tiebreakers over them with conference records, divisional, within the division itself, with the record itself. So we'll have a lead on them for the seeding itself. If we happen to, and that's what we're thinking. Yes, we can clinch, and I feel like we can go into LA. It's basically like another mini home game for us, the way going into LA itself. So with that being said, like you're going to see lots of orange there in the stands in LA tomorrow. So with that being said, it's like I always like to say, always clinch this playoff at a home game, and LA is a secondary home game for us. It's an added bonus. It's there in Vegas. Both of those locations are like home games for us, which is really nice.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to skip you. I just saw the question from Billy Timmons, and I got a little excited because I was like, Herbert is questionable. And I just checked Libre. He does have an ankle injury, but it's not anything where it's like an injury designation. So he is slated to start tomorrow. But it does say here that if the Chargers lose tomorrow night to the Broncos, they're highly unlikely to be anything besides the 7th seed in the AFC playoffs. If they win, then they'll still be in the running for the 5th or the 6th seed, depending on what happens elsewhere. So basically, beating the Chargers will keep them at the 7th, and they will not have to move anything further than that. Because if the Broncos, if the season ended today, the Broncos would be playing the Steelers. The TJ Wattless Steelers, mind you, because I don't think TJ Watt is playing this weekend, and they're playing their division game against Baltimore. So they're really gonna have their hands full against Lamar Jackson and shoot. and they're running and company. Derrick Henry, having a blonde moment. D-Rock saying, seeing PS2 fanboying over Benito is wild because PS2 is the dude, and he's reacting like that, says a lot about Benito's ascension into eliteness. And you are so totally right about this, D-Rock. I saw that video, like the mic'd up version. it is so very encouraging and humbling to see that PS2 was so happy that his teammate got a pick six. The man was playing like a cornerback or a safety instead of instead of a pass rusher, which was just so amazing. And when you have that type of chemistry in the locker room, that's something that we haven't seen in Broncos country in a long freaking time, Libre. You know, back when we were all longtime inhabitants living in a world of suck, you know. So,
Right.
and this is exactly the type of chemistry and the type of bond that the Broncos need to have, because it is going to get tougher when the Broncos make the playoffs. So, every bad drive is going to hurt. Every turnover that the Broncos make is going to hurt. One side of the ball, one side is going to have to carry the other one more than the other, just like this game, more possibly. So the Broncos need to keep their confidence up. They need to keep the bond, the team bond together, and they need to take on any single challenge that goes their way. Your thoughts, Libre?
You know, watching that video and his excitement for his teammate, like, you know, you want to, it's always about me. I want to do this. It's me doing this. That's for me. But seeing that genuine excitement, especially when he saw him picking, like as soon as he picked it off, his immediate reaction was like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, look at that. And then once he met him up in the end zone saying, you're him, that's you, you know, that's you. Like, that's just, that gives me more excitement just for this defense itself, that I have more appreciation for them now, more than I did yesterday when I didn't see that video. But seeing that and seeing that excitement that he has for his teammates and they're excelling and all that, that just pumps me up even more, because this is a team, especially the defensive side, they're so selfish itself, and that's what makes great teams better.
Yeah. And Shar Vargas quickly adding here that Justin Herbert won't be 100% better. That's totally true. It is really hard to heal that quick, especially in this game of football. But to be honest with you, Shai, Justin Herbert has been playing not well even before he got hurt. Okay. We saw how he looked like when he didn't have Lad McConkey a couple weeks ago against the Chiefs, and he looked terrible. And the Chargers barely lost that game by a doink. Okay. But even when he has Lad McConkey, like he did this past weekend, a team like the Bucks went in there and just completely throttled. And I love saying that because I hate the Chargers. D-Rock coming in and saying to us, Libre, he's saying, I'm going to say what some people are thinking. Has George Payton saved his job? Yes. Libre, I'll let you take this first. What do you think? Has George Payton saved his job?
Absolutely, he has. And you could see that. And I think he just, at a point where he just got lucky. And it's also in a way that these guys are putting what they put together on the field and or in the classroom, however you want to say it, and then producing on the field. That definitely saves the GM's job themselves, because he goes, hey, I'm putting you guys, these are the guys that I have for you. You take care of it. And of course, that happened for him. Last year, we're talking about it. I could say that he was on a hot seat. Definitely, he was in a hot seat, especially there with Russell Wilson and the whole benching of him there at the end of the season last year. He was definitely in a hot seat. I think this year, that seat has cooled down a lot. So he definitely is here for at least, for the tenure of his current contract that he currently has.
Yeah.
That he has nothing to worry about going forward as of right now.
Yeah, I think me and you talked about this before. I don't blame anything about the Russell Wilson thing for GP. There is no way he knew that was going to go down the way it did. So I don't blame him for that. I would have blamed him if it was Aaron Rodgers, because you guys have heard us say this 100 times. If we as Broncos country would have had to deal with all the shenanigans that the Jets fans are dealing with Rodgers, I think I'd be more pissed off. Yes, Russell Wilson didn't pan out to be the way that we expected him to be, but we didn't know. We didn't know what we had in Nathaniel Hackett. We didn't know, the team was still pretty much in shambles without an owner in Pat Bowlen. And that's really what was missing. to be honest with you, because even if Russell Wilson doesn't come to Denver and it would have been whoever, I don't think it would have been enough to right the ship. And there was just so much disarray in this team, and there was nobody to put their foot down and say, hey, you know what? This stuff isn't working. So this got to go. He's got to go. And so and so and so and so. Money be damned. And that's exactly what some teams are really lacking in terms of, if you look at the worst teams in the NFL right now, I'm not going to name any, but you can automatically tell that the way they're being run, they're not being run efficiently because nobody's being held accountable. And the decisions that need to be made are not being made because they're trying to save money. And that's something that's another topic that we're going to get into later on in today's OT part of Broncos Talk. But to be honest with you, yes, George Paton has saved his job. He's done a fantastic job so far, to be honest with you, in terms of what it is he brought in Nick Bonito. And I am really excited to see what he continues to bring to the Broncos in the near future. But this Chargers game, Libre, is very, very crucial. It's a very important game for both sides, as you heard me mention earlier. It's more of a must-win for the Chargers than it is for the Broncos, because the Chargers are trying to sweep Denver, which is something that they didn't do last year. Last year, the Broncos swept the Chargers. And it's but the thing is that the Broncos are going into SoFi with a winning streak, with the momentum of beating the Browns, and even with the week off, just beating the Colts. And on paper, I just think that the Broncos are just much better suited. Now, I will say that the McConkey does make me nervous. I don't think the Chargers' run game is any better than Denver's, and in fact, it's probably worse or just as bad, I guess you could say. But I don't see the Broncos losing this game, and I'm not just saying that because I'm a Broncos fan, but just for the simple fact that the only thing that has the Chargers' offense going in any sort of way is Ladd McConkey. And that man is not going to line up against PS2, so he's definitely going to line up anywhere opposite of him, which leads it to another question asked by your cousin, saying, how do you guys like the play of Abraham Drain? I'll let you go first, Libre.
You know, I was actually advocating for him to be the next, putting him in because of somebody named Levi. And so forth, the way that he played. And I was actually saying we need to put him in. And you could see right away, even though he's a rookie, like you could see like he is so much better playing at that position itself. So I'm all about it itself. And they're gonna split time for tomorrow. I feel like he's not gonna be there the whole game, but he's gonna be there a little bit of the time itself. Yeah, like Baki has said, he said the Chargers haven't swept the Broncos since 2010. So,
yeah, I think that Abraham Drain and Damari Mathis, the Jay's MVP. I'm pretty sure he has a shrine or a giant poster somewhere in his room we can't see on camera. I think that Abraham Drain out of the two probably gives us the much better chance. I do think that either one of those guys are definitely going to have safety help because they have to contain McConkey. They cannot let him go run buck wild. Quentin Johnson, I'm not worried about Quentin Johnson at all because if Johnson's going to have to go up against Paxton, and that's something that he didn't. And even when he didn't play last time, Johnson still wasn't exactly a threat, and let's not forget, folks, that the Broncos were close. They almost came back and won that game. They just ran out of time, you know. But this is not before, and no two games are ever the same. And in this game, the Broncos have learned from their mistakes. You better damn well believe that they watched tape from what happened last time, and they are going to make the Chargers' life a living hell. Also, I want to point out that the Chargers' offensive line, especially this past Sunday, got beat at the point of attack almost every single time. Shout out to Vita Vea. That guy, he's on my Madden team every single year. That guy is a monster at defensive tackle. But that Bucs defensive line, even with Joe Alt being one of the best offensive linemen coming off of the draft, I mean, he just had a bad day at the office, Ray. So if the Bucs defensive line can do that to the Chargers offensive line and just have them rattled, then I don't see why our offensive line can't do the same. Zach Allen, while he didn't have the best game this past week, he was still able to get in there. He was still able to put the pressure on, and he made the plays that needed to be played. He forced Anthony Richardson. Now, I will say that on that touchdown run by Richardson, just kind of backtrack a little bit, Ellis did get kind of, man, the man got he got burned. There was a read option. He really kind of didn't commit, and then when he tried to, it was already too late. Richardson was already gone. But the Broncos got them back because in that Cortland Sutton touchdown, he finally got that cornerback with that little juke, and he was gone. So, it was tit for tat on that one. But for you, Lieber, my question to you is, who do you think on that Chargers offensive line or offensive side worries you the most? Or is it McConkey, just like me?
Yeah, I have a little bit of with McConkey. I think he's going to be the number one. But first, especially for the offensive line, because I'm a lineman at Trey, Joe Alt, he's the rookie. He's been playing very well all season long. And I feel like that's part of why Herbert has been, or the offense for the Chargers have been where they're at, is because of them selecting Joe Alt this year in the draft. So, yeah, we're going to have a tough time on the side of the defense, but I feel like with us being consistent pressure of what we've been doing all season long, and just hoping that this is something that he hasn't seen at all year, that is going to be able to, our defensive line is going to be able to hopefully rattle him a little bit and say, all right, this is something new, because the first game itself it's an anomaly. It's at the beginning of the season. We're still trying to figure out what we are. Now that we know who we are, I feel like we can get to him, and I think we can get to Herbert. And especially with his ankle himself that he has, he's not as fast. He's not going to be as mobile, and I think we'll have a good defensive showing this weekend or tomorrow.
No, you're totally right. And quarterbacks with ankle injuries are forced to play more in the pocket. So if they do scramble, it's going to be something quick. They're more likely going to try to run out of bounds or, buy as much time as they can. But it's not going to be anything of like what we saw with against a more mobile quarterback, as you can say. So I am expecting Justin Herbert to spend more time in the pocket than normal. So I really do hope that happens, because that alone, there's no way that man dances in the pocket with Zach Allen and Jones coming right at him. And then you got Cooper and Bonito coming in from the close. If they can close the pocket and not let him, get free every single drive, I mean,
yeah.
You might as well get the backup quarterback warming up. But this game, the fact that I'm pretty sure that maybe the Chargers right now are kind of regretting having the game flexed, because they're probably thinking like, man, we really could have used those extra couple days of rest, when it was originally supposed to be scheduled on Sunday, but then 2 weeks ago they moved it up to Thursday Night Football. And for the Broncos, all the more better, because the last time the Broncos were on Thursday Night Football was against the Saints, and they literally wrecked them on prime time. So also, I don't know if it was you or somebody told me that the Broncos are probably going to be moved up to a primetime slot next week when they play the Bengals. Maybe not Sunday Night Football.
No, they already got confirmed to the Saturday afternoon.
Saturday afternoon, thank you. So they're going to be playing on Saturday next week. So that's in the primetime slot. So that's already big news. It'll be interesting to see what the Broncos are walking into when they go to Cincinnati, because Joe Burrow is also, as we said earlier, he's not 100%, and it'll be interesting to see on what condition he is. And after this week, they play the Browns. It's their second matchup, but it shouldn't be that tough, because it's not even Jameis Winston. It's DTR. That's quarterback. But the boss, Johnny Baki, sorry I missed your comment earlier, boss. He's saying they are confirmed playing on Saturday. Thanks so much for the confirmation. And my high salute to you, brother. Thank you so much for everything you do for us here on Broncos Talk. Juan Marquez saying it will be 2:30 Mountain Time next week. Yeesh, that's the middle of the afternoon, isn't it?
Yeah. So that's like prime time, though. You have to think of it as well. It's like now we're here at the end of the season. There's maybe a college bowl game, maybe not. Like, but now this is just one of the only games that are going to be available for people to watch. So the whole country is going to be able to watch this in particular game itself. So that's quote unquote prime time. You know how you think about it.
Yeah, and as Johnny said earlier, the Broncos have not been swept by the Chargers since 2010. So this is a must-win for the Broncos because they cannot let that record break. That has to stand. And you guys already know that the Broncos swept the Raiders. They lost once to the Chargers, and they barely lost to the Chiefs. And so this is a must-win game for our beloved Broncos. And I think the biggest takeaway from this is just kind of getting back at Harbaugh, because I'll admit, I underestimated Harbaugh the first time around. I really didn't think. I thought that even without PS2, I thought that the Chargers were going to get cooked. But unfortunately, it wasn't. It didn't come to that. And when the Broncos finally got their effing act together, it was too late. They ran out of time. You know, it's nothing new in Broncos country. We've heard that story here a million times. But I'm very optimistic and I'm very hopeful that going into tomorrow's game, again, if the Chargers are going in there thinking that they're facing the exact same Broncos team they did earlier this season, they are in for a really, really big surprise. And I just expect the Broncos to run all over them. So, Libre, do you have any thoughts about what the final score is before we move on to OT?
For this game, it's still going to be a close game. It's I feel like this is going to be like a 27-23 type of game. It's going to be tough. It's going to be a dogfight until the end. And it could be where it's that whoever has that last possession again, but I feel like the Broncos will come out victorious on it itself.
I think the Broncos win 33-21, just for the simple fact that I see the Chargers getting like a garbage time touchdown. But then again, I'll keep repeating it. The Bucs just kind of shut them out, and the Bucs hung 40 points on that Chargers defense. So it was kind of like, ugh. But division games are always tougher. They're always closer. Exactly. And the only time it's a blowout is if one of them is like the Raiders, where they're just complete dog crap. D-Rock saying 22-16 Denver. And the boss Baki adding, Chargers only got it done the first time because PS2 bonked his noggin. That's actually true. And Riley Moss did have his hands full, but it was a game where even with that, they almost came back and won. They ran out of time. Juan Marquez saying 28-20, Los Broncos, of course. And the boss Baki saying the Broncos win 31-24. Yeah, I can see that one. And I almost forgot here, Libre. Me and Ty both have the Chargers winning this weekend. And last week I had the Broncos losing to the Colts, and Ty had them winning. So he was right. I was wrong. And we have them winning this game. And I cannot wait to see to be able to cross this out and say that one of us was right on that half. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for the regular. I had a saying for this. The regular, what is it called? Just before overtime, the regular game time or whatever.
End of regulation.
End of regulation. Thank you. Words are hard. End of regulation for Broncos Talk. We are now going to be entering Broncos Talk OT. T. But before we do, the boss Baki jumping back in saying the Broncos have been averaging 32 points per game over the last 5 games. Yes, they have. And I am I'm believing that Bo Nix is going to play a much cleaner game, and he is not going to commit the errors that he made this past week against the Colts. So, for those of you that don't know, that are new to the show, we talk about the games that are coming up this following week, and Libre and I are going to give our personal opinions for every single game. This Sunday, we try not to dabble too much, so we try to go not super quick either, you know. So we do hope you guys enjoy this part of the show. I know it's not exactly Broncos related, but I figure that, you know, I always get asked my opinion about other teams. I don't know if Libre does. And if we can find a way to tie it back to Broncos in some sort of way, then we will. But I think Libre and I did a fantastic job last week. We were kind of just spitting back and forth. We also had a bit of a difference of opinion in some of our picks. And I'd like to think that I was right, though.
I like how you think that way.
Yeah.
I only think I missed one game.
Yeah. So let's start with the Saturday games here, Libre. The Houston Texans at 9-5 against the Kansas City Chiefs at 13-1. You know what? I'm just gonna say it. I am so tired of the Patrick Mahomes getting hurt bullcrap. Like, let me know when he actually hurts himself, or like he breaks a leg and he actually can't play. I'm so tired of like, oh, he twisted his ankle or he hurt his ankle. It's day to day, it's week by week or whatever. Like, shut up. You know, it is it is so annoying. And I swear they only do it because they're like trying to make a documentary in case the Chiefs should happen to three-peat, which they're not. But as far as I know, Libre, Patrick Mahomes is slated to start. I know he's still questionable, but if he doesn't start, I think that the Texans get a big advantage in that one. I don't even know the name of the backup for the Chiefs, to be honest with you.
I don't even know who that is either.
Yeah, so but you know me, I never pick the AFC West rivals, so I'm gonna say the Texans. If CJ Stroud was to ever have a big game this season, because he hasn't had one yet, this is the time. I know he doesn't have Stephon Diggs, but he still has Tank Dell. He has Nico Collins. He has Joe Mixon. And the Chiefs defense has been rattled. And this past week was the first time that the Chiefs actually shut down an opponent and were up by a lead, and the game wasn't in jeopardy, but it was against the Browns, and Jameis Winston was eventually replaced by DTR. So that's my thoughts on that. I'm going to say Texans. What about you, Libre?
You know, just going to Patrick Mahomes, he was considered a full participant today in practice. So, again, going back to your narrative, let me know when he's actually hurt. He can't play anymore. I'm the same way. Like, that's the last several years. That's all we've been hearing. Like, he has this high ankle sprain, but he's still out there doing all these crazy runs and passes or whatnot. But for me, I think it's again. I think Houston is going to have. They're catching him at a good time, I think, and they're going to be able to say and actually beat them. It's going to be still a close game, but I think Houston can definitely go in there and win that game.
I hope they do, because a 2 next to that 13 would look so wonderful.
Oh yeah.
The Pittsburgh Steelers at 10-4 going up against the Baltimore Ravens for the evening game on Saturday. You know what? The Steelers without TJ Watt, or TJ. Sometimes I keep saying JJ. But against TJ Watt, I think that, you know what? I'm not trying to take away anything from Russell Wilson, because in some sort of way, I'm still pulling for him. I still think he should have been a Bronco, even though I love Bo Nix and everything that he's brought to this team. But the fact that the Broncos are paying Russell Wilson so much money, and the fact that the Steelers have are slightly better than the Broncos still irks me at night. But even so, I don't think that the Steelers are going to win this game. I think that the Ravens are they're just on a roll right now, Libre. And aside from their really awkward loss to the Raiders earlier this season, I don't think, especially if Pickens doesn't play and he's still hurt, I think that's going to put the offense in a really bad spot. The Steelers can't run the ball. Najee Harris has not been good. And Russell Wilson's moonball only works if there's somebody at the opposite end from a Steeler to catch it. So, and without TJ Watt, I don't see how, even if they can stop Lamar Jackson, you can't stop Derrick Henry. You can only do one of both. So I'm going to say that the Ravens win that game. What about you, Libre?
I say ditto. You took all the words out of my mouth. No, and it's true because like TJ Watt himself is that destroyer there on that defensive side, and he's not being with him not there. Like you said, you can only stop one or two. Who are you going to stop? Because you can't do both without him there. And then still, I feel like Russ is still going to do Russ things. Like you never know what Russ you're ever going to get on these games. Even with this year when him being put into the starting position itself, he still has those bad games. You never know. So overall, I feel that the Ravens will definitely win this game.
Sunday night matchup, folks. The New York Giants at 2-12 go off to face off the Atlanta Falcons at 7-7. You know what? When I got the news yesterday, Libre, that the Falcons were benching Kirk Cousins, I wasn't happy with it. I don't think that was the right choice. I get it. Kirk Cousins hasn't been playing hasn't been playing a lot of good football, but you're paying him a lot of money, and he doesn't have an injury designation.
No.
So the fact that you're benching him for Michael Penix and you're literally throwing that man into the fire, like, granted, the Giants are not like world beaters, but this wasn't the right time to do it. Okay. I don't know what the Falcons are going to do with Kirk Cousins. They're gonna if they cut him or trade him, they're still losing a lot of money in dead money. I don't think that they will. They're literally in the same situation that Denver's in. But my advice to them is, hey, you made your bed, you got to lay in it. Maybe it's just the funk that Kirk Cousins is going into. Maybe he'll play better next year. But what you don't want to do is you don't want to cut him and send him to another team and pay him a bunch of money to possibly play better somewhere else. Okay. Free agency is a gamble, folks. That's a tale as old as time. Not every player that comes to your team is going to play exactly like they did on the team before. For Denver, Randy Gregory, perfect example. And you can even say Russell Wilson in his earlier years with Seattle. But it's the battle of Michael Penix versus Drew Lock. It's probably going to come down to like one of the defenses playing better. I mean, I'm going to say Falcons just for the simple fact that they have home advantage, and Michael Penix probably doesn't have to do a lot. Maybe they'll probably run the ball and they won't limit his throwing. I don't know. But unfortunately, Drew Lock has not been the change at quarterback that I thought that was going to happen with the Giants. I think he's actually not playing very good football, and I don't think that changes this week either.
So is Drew Lock actually playing for the Giants?
I saw his name on the report that said he was the starter, so okay. I could be wrong. So it's either him.
Yeah.
So it's either him or Tommy DeVito.
Yeah. So I just remember that Tommy DeVito started this last week because of Drew not being he was injured or whatnot. But either way, it doesn't matter. I feel for me, it doesn't matter who's going to be out there. And I feel that the Falcons will definitely have this game. And I also said that, like, for me, I think why not put him in? Let's get him some game time experience with Penix Jr., so let him get in there. Yes, you're paying Cousins a lot of money, but why not do it now? You have 3 games left in the season. You're pretty much throwing yourself already the towel in. We're like, okay, let's just get him some reps. Let's get him something in there so that they can have that QB competition in the during the off season and training camp next year, and see where they're at.
I agree, my friend. Next game, the Arizona Cardinals at 7-7 go off to face the Carolina Panthers at 3-11. I gotta say, the Carolina Panthers fell flat on their face this past weekend. The fact that they were able to take the defending champs, God, I hate saying that, Kansas City Chiefs to the limit, and most of the games before that, the Eagles at that they kept the Eagles almost in check, and then they went off and literally just laid an egg against the Cowboys last week, a team that should have been a whole lot closer, but unfortunately it wasn't. But I think that this is probably where the Panthers start to regress a little bit. Arizona's probably going to catch a little bit of a winning streak towards the end, although Arizona didn't look all that better last weekend either. But I think the Cardinals on paper are still better than the Panthers. Budda Baker just signed an extension to continue playing as a Cardinal, and this is probably the bounce back game for Arizona. So I'm going to pick the Cardinals on this one.
Same. I'm picking the Cardinals as well. I just feel like they have a little bit more upside than what the Panthers do.
Before we go to the next game, we have a question here from D-Rock. He's saying, fellas, do y'all believe overpaying for quarterbacks to go to a team will end it? Will it end because it hasn't worked as of late? Well, I mean, free agency is one of the most expensive times of the year. You have to overpay if you want a certain player. Again, I was talking to one of my passengers about Mike McGlinchey. He was technically going to the Bears, but the Broncos outbid the Bears, and the Bears didn't want to go head toe to toe with Denver, and they're like, okay, you can have him. So in a way, I kind of wish that the Bears had outbid us because Mike McGlinchey was not the right tackle that we thought he'd be. But that's always been an Achilles heel in Denver since 2015, since the Peyton years. So, but that's just the risk you got to run. Randy Gregory, perfect example. They paid him a lot of money, and we were expecting to see the pass rusher they had in Dallas, where he was before. Then he just completely fizzled out. So with free agency, it's Vegas. It's literally a gamble. You're hoping that the player you get is going to come and play with the same animosity and energy that they did before. And sometimes it does work, sometimes it doesn't. Injuries, just there's so many factors, and it's really just a gamble. So I really do hope that the next free agent we get, big signing, doesn't come back to bite us in the ass. What do you think, Libre?
No, I agree as well. Even though over the last several years you've seen quarterbacks being overpaid to go somewhere, especially Kirk Cousins himself. That's the prime example right now for this offseason. And it's not panning out. It all still comes down to the system. How well do you fit within it? Are you that type of quarterback? You're believing that that's what the quarterback's going to do is come in here and be able to fit in. That's why you're paying him to do that. But they still sometimes don't match up properly. And it's just a gamble, like how we're saying. It's like you're Vegas, you're throwing the craps, and hopefully you get, you roll the dice and you land big. But again, it never knows what's going to happen. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But it's that gamble that you always want to take, to hoping that this quarterback and you're overpaying for him is going to be the guy, that franchise quarterback for you. Yeah, it hasn't, like you've seen it right now, like how you're saying, it hasn't worked as of late, but you just have to sometimes just have to pay it just to see what happens.
Right. Shai, we're going to get to your question as soon as we get to the end of this segment, I promise you, before we end the show. Detroit Lions at 12-2 against the Chicago Bears at 4-10. I mean, the Bears completely they look really bad against Minnesota this past Monday night. Caleb Williams is just kind of like, it's almost like he doesn't even know what to do. His offensive line is terrible. Yeah, there's just so many issues with Chicago, and the fact that they showed the GM and the owner just literally with no emotion. If I was a Bears fan, I'd be pissed. The Lions, while they do have a lot of injuries, a lot of injured players, this should be a cakewalk for them because the Bears just can't get out of their way. So I'm not even going to waste as much time on this. I'm going to say Lions.
Lions as well, are the same.
Tennessee Titans at 3-11 against the Colts at 6-8. I think that the Colts are going to come in, pretty pissed off about what happened to them in Denver. They're literally going to need a miracle to try to make anything close to the playoffs. So I'm going to say the Colts on this one. I think Jonathan Taylor kind of bounces back. The Tennessee Titans, they're benching Levis, Mason, Rudolph Mason or whatever his name is. He's starting at quarterback, but it really doesn't matter. I still think that the Titans messed up letting Mike Vrabel go. Hiring Brian Callahan was totally not the right decision, and the Titans are even worse than they were before. So yeah, I'm going to say Colts.
No, I agree. I think, especially from the game on Sunday, the Colts will definitely come out being pissed off. They still have that chance of getting that into the playoffs. They need a lot of help to get into the playoffs as well. So for them, I think that they want it. You could see when they were here, you could see that they wanted it. And I'm gonna say right now, Jonathan Taylor, he's gonna be handing the ball to the ref after he scores a touchdown. Just saying it now.
I see that too, or he's going to make some gesture with the football, like holding it or cradling it. Yeah, all in good fun, I hope. LA Rams at 8-6 against the New York Jets at 4-10. You know what? The Jets look like the old day Packers against the Jacksonville Jaguars last week. But I think that they get humbled by the Rams. Matthew Stafford is going to go in there, and even if Sauce Gardner is on their best player, the Rams just have so many weapons. Even if Sauce Gardner can only do so much, and that Jets defense, they only look good because it was freaking Jacksonville. Come on. But I think they get humbled at home, and the Rams, I'm going to say, win that game easily.
I'm picking the Rams as well. I feel like Aaron Rodgers is already checked out. You could see it. Even bringing in Devontae Adams, helped for that first couple of weeks when he got there. But since then, he hasn't really done nothing. With interviews that you've seen with him, not knowing what he's planning on doing for next year, we already know, he's not going to come back. I feel that this is his last year, and he just doesn't want to say it yet. And that's part of it. It's like you're a competitor. You never want to say, I'm done, I'm finally done. But I think this is the year that broke him after coming back from that Achilles injury from last year. So
I agree, man.
Yeah.
And then the Philadelphia Eagles at 12-2 against the Washington Commanders at 9-5. So this is their second matchup. I think the Commanders won the first time, if I'm not mistaken. No, the Eagles won, I think. But in this one, the Eagles still have one of the tougher defenses in the NFC. I don't think that the Commanders can do enough yet. I think Jaden Daniels is going to have another rough day at the office, just for the simple fact that that Eagles defensive front line is vicious, man. And Terry McLaurin is definitely going to have to work some magic to try to get open and give Jaden Daniels, or that offensive line is going to have to try to give him time to get rid of the football. But I want to say Eagles on that one.
I agree. I think the Eagles will handily win this game. I feel that Jaden Daniels, he's great, but I feel like this is where he's starting to decline. And this is where a lot of these rookies, and I think you could say that for Bo too on this last Sunday, where how many games that they're playing within the same year. So, and I feel like you're seeing that with a lot of the rookies. But I don't think they'll be able to handle, especially with the Eagles defense. That defense is really good.
And when that offense gets humming, they're dangerous, man.
Yep.
Cleveland Browns at 3-11 against the Bengals at 6-8. Now we kind of talked about this a little bit earlier. Cleveland Browns they're benching Jameis Winston. They're done seeing whatever can be in him, which I don't think is the right call. And they're starting a DTR. And the Bengals, I think the Bengals are probably going to have another big game, especially at home. And I hope they do. They better enjoy it because our Broncos are going to be knocking at the door in a week's time. So I think this is going to be a good game for the Bengals. I'm going to pick them to win.
I agree. I think the Bengals will win this game. Like I said, divisional games are always crazy because you can really never know what's going to happen. But I feel like they're that much more hungrier than the Browns are because the Browns are now eliminated. the Browns just want to be that spoiler. But I feel the Bengals will go ahead and take this easily.
Yeah. By the way, if anybody has Jerry Jeudy on their fantasy team, don't start him. That's my advice. Don't start him. Minnesota Vikings at 12-2 against the Seattle Seahawks at 8-6. I don't know what Geno Smith is I think I heard that he's more than likely going to play. But even then, I don't think that's still good enough. I think the Vikings are just they're playing some good football, man. And if they can't beat you with Justin Jefferson, they'll beat you with Jordan Addison. And if they can't beat you with either one of those guys, Aaron Jones, when he's healthy, man, he's a monster. And Sam Darnold has just been playing some really good football. And the fact that the Vikings have 4 backup quarterbacks, Nick Mullins, Daniel Jones, and I forget the name of the other one. But it's players that probably won't be on this team next year, especially because JJ McCarthy, because JJ McCarthy is more than likely going to be the starter next year. And this is a hot take here, Libre. I'm saying this right here. I have a feeling that Sam Darnold goes to the Giants next year. I don't know why. I don't know how. Probably not because Sam Darnold's going to be a hot commodity and he's going to chase the money. But I just get a feeling that he's going to go to one of these bad teams and he's going to turn their luck around. Except Vegas, because Vegas is probably going to likely get Shador.
They'll get Shador, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm going to say Vikings on this one. Seattle, they do have some good football, but their offense is really shaky.
No, I agree with that too. And with the Vikings, they're just playing so well right now. And like how you said, they have so many weapons, so many options right now. If it's not one guy, if it's not JJ, there's Addison. So it's going to be they're just going to light it up. I don't think Seattle's defense is going to be able to hang with them. So I'll take Vikings on this game.
Right. New England Patriots at 3-11 against the Buffalo Bills at 11-3. I'm not even going to mince words here with you folks. Josh Allen, more than likely going to be your MVP. The Patriots might keep it close just because it's a divisional game, but I haven't seen anything from Drake May or anybody that says that it's going to be like within 3 points. So I'm just going to say Buffalo.
Same, Buffalo. The Bills just have too many. They're just hitting it on all cylinders right now, and I don't think you can stop them right now, especially with Josh Allen the way he's playing.
Mm-hmm. Jacksonville Jaguars at 3-11 against the Raiders, who are 2-12. Ladies and gentlemen, this is your toilet bowl game of the week. And as you guys know, I never pick AFC West rivals, so I'm going to say Jacksonville Jaguars, and I'm probably going to be wrong, but I don't care because I'm probably not going to watch that game.
Nobody's watching that game.
So yeah, nobody's watching that game. You're right.
Like you already called it the toilet bowl.
Yeah.
But the Raiders are so bad. Like I don't feel like they have nothing. They don't have anything to fight for anymore. Crosby's out. So they've already given up on the season itself. Their own fans already saying tank for Shador, or tank for whoever. So without question, they're not winning another game this year. So
yeah.
And
Antonio Pierce is more than likely on his way out too. I don't see him as a head coach next year either, because they're playing even worse than before.
Yeah.
San Francisco 49ers at 6-8 against the Miami Dolphins, who are also 6-8. This game's going to be kind of close because I feel like both of these teams are on the exact same level. The Dolphins should have beat Houston last week, and they got embarrassed. So I don't know what's going on with Tua. Whatever little fire or momentum he had going into that game, he completely lost. But the Niners are still continue to be beat up on both sides of the ball. And if it was the other way around, I would have probably picked San Francisco. But Miami at home plays a whole lot better especially when Tua's in the back. So I'm going to say Miami wins that game.
Same, I agree. I think Miami's going to win this game. It's not going to be a close game for me, just because of how many injuries that the 49ers do have.
Mm-hmm. And then the Sunday night football game here, Libre, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at 8-6 against the Cowboys at 6-8. Now, how this game did not get flexed is beyond me, but I guess the Bucs did put on a show against the Chargers, and now they're going to Dallas, and they definitely have to put on a show against the Cowboys, because the Cowboys are still the Cowboys. And even though they beat the Panthers last week, it's the Panthers, a team that's worse than them. So I'm expecting Baker to go in there and light that defense up. And it's going to be a bad day at Jerry World. So I'm going to pick the Buccaneers.
And there was a point for during the season that the Cowboys have not won a single game at home, and they had and this I saw this on Twitter, where there was a whole list of teams that have gone into AT&T Stadium and showed who's actually won there, and the Cowboys were at 0.
Mm-hmm.
And for some reason, they cannot just play at home in front of their crowds. And that stadium almost fits 100,000 people in there. And you're starting to see that stadium is filling up with more and more of the opposing teams versus the Cowboys. So I feel that that's going to happen again for the Sunday night, because it is a Sunday night game. And it's going to be Baker Mayfield and company that's going to go in there and win this game handily. And like how you said, I don't see how this game did not get flexed out.
Yeah. And then the Monday night game, folks, the New Orleans Saints at 5-9 against the Green Bay Packers at 10-4. New Orleans sucks. Green Bay all the way.
Jordan Love is I can't, like, for me, I don't know how Green Bay has been able to do this over the last 30 some years, to have these great quarterbacks. So and Jordan Love is that next one in line. He's going to be a good quarterback for years to come.
Yeah. So we're going to get through these last two comments, ladies and gentlemen, and then we're going to get going. Shai Vargas asking us, how far can the Broncos go? Shai, the Broncos can go as far as Bo Nix and the offense and the defense can take them. You guys have to remember that when the Broncos make the playoffs, it is a whole different ball game. It's a whole different atmosphere. And more than likely, the Broncos are probably going to play more games on the road than at home. So they're really going to have the odds stacked against them. Doesn't mean it's impossible. But in the playoffs, it's win or go home. So you don't get a second chance at air, because it's not a divisional game. So any mistake you make is double. It's double bad. And either side of the ball is going to have to work even harder to try to make up for it. So the only thing that I want the Broncos to not do, and we saw it last year at the Super Wildcard Weekend, was like the teams that played that barely got in got completely blown out. Okay. We saw it with the Eagles. We saw it with the Cowboys. And we saw it with, was it Houston? With the Browns? Yeah, we saw it with the Browns on Houston, where the Browns just went in there and they just got completely demolished. So that's the only thing I don't want to see. I want this Denver team to go in there, and I want them to give whoever it is that they're playing, play them as best of their abilities and keep the game close. And I hope that they win, because so far they've already beaten all the odds. They've already shut up a whole lot of people. And a win or two or even three, the closer they can get to a Super Bowl matchup, the more they're going to look forward to in terms of improving themselves next year.
For me, I think it's going to be all about how healthy our defense is going to be. If our defense can stay healthy, like they say, defense wins championships. If we can get that to be where we're healthy going into the playoffs, we could go all the way. Because defense can go definitely lock down that. And as long as we can just be somewhat average to above average for the offensive side, it's going to be easy for us. But it's going to be that key with that defense itself. And I feel like we can definitely do it.
I agree. And then the boss, Johnny Baki, adding before we get out of here, which stinks more, my kid's diaper sitting out in the summer sun or Justin Herbert with an ankle injury?
It's a good thing I don't live in Tennessee.
Yeah, me neither. And if you switch out that Justin Herbert for Patrick Mahomes, I'd probably say it'd be even.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. But ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for today's show. I'd like to thank everybody that was in the chat today. D-Rock, the boss, Richie over at MHRT Network. I think that's you. Polar Knights, Shai Vargas, Juan Marquez, If I forget anybody, I really do apologize. I'm just going up the list and say as many names as I can. Billy Timmons, thank you so much for liking the show. Make sure you like us on Facebook, Twitter, wherever it is you're watching us from. If you're not here through YouTube, Dreamweaver, who came by earlier, and Blitz B Reppin, who also came by earlier. And I don't know if I said Jay, but Jay as well. But make sure you guys, please, Orange and Blue Network, we need you to please subscribe, share, comment, and like on all the shows. We have a lot of great programming here on Orange and Blue Network, and your support is definitely appreciated. Also, remember that this is a simulcast, so we're also on the MHRT network. So please make sure you subscribe, share, comment, and like us on all of their shows as well. Your support is definitely appreciated. Shout out to Dubby for sponsoring today's show. If you'd like to hit us up on Twitter, here are our tags at a 6'10" Mexican is mine, Bronco Libre at a Bronco Libre. Give us a follow, give us a like. We're always down and happy to talk about any and all things football. For our audio listeners listening to us after the fact, please make sure you give us 5-star rating. Make sure you hit that notification button so you're always up to date whenever episodes drop, wherever it is you're listening to us over the air, wherever it is you get your podcast. Please, if for any business inquiries, you can email at broncostalk2020@gmail.com. Again, I always ask everybody to please continue sharing, showing your support for all forms of Broncos media out there, because they do appreciate it. And it's getting close to the nitty-gritty, folks. We're almost towards the end of the season. Time feels like it's flying by fast, but the playoffs are going to be here soon, and the Broncos are definitely going to need your support more than ever, especially as they get ready to make a playoff push. So, with all that said, ladies and gentlemen, he's Bronco Libre. I'm Adan Diaz. This has been Broncos Talk on the Orange and Blue and MHRT networks. Ladies and gentlemen, have a good night. Have a good day wherever it is you're listening to us, time of day. So please remember. Oh, before I forget, I almost forgot. See, this is exactly why I need to write stuff down. Please, for any Spanish audience out there, join us every Friday. Bronco Libre and I host Viva los Broncos every single Friday. So please make sure you come out and show your support. Also, I will be on the pregame show tomorrow. I don't know who I'm going to be doing it with yet, but please make sure you jump in and join us for the pregame show. Also on the neighborhood, if you can't watch the Broncos game, tune into the neighborhood. They give you every up-to-the-date stats on the game itself, and then make sure you join us afterwards for the post-game show with Jay Weaver. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, please make sure to get ready, get loud, and more importantly, let's get I forgot my cue. Let's remember to just
Let's get dangerous.
I love doing that. Everybody, we'll see you next week. Goodbye.